And she asked God, she said, how am I supposed to love him? How should I be loving him? How do I show you my love and my gratitude for him? Basically, she heard him say to her, love him as you love me.
Welcome to the Kickass Couples Podcast. This is the place where we help committed couples who want to level up their marriage experience newfound clarity, hope, and confidence. We're Matthew and Kim, co-hosts and husband and wife.
In 26 years together, we've seen a lot and never thought it could be as good as it is right now. We're here to help you successfully navigate the messy, dirty, and wonderful world of marriage.
We believe all couples deserve and are capable of experiencing an extraordinary and fulfilling marriage. And each week, we're bringing you life lessons from real-life successful couples to help you grow and strengthen your relationship.
We'll get started right after this message.
If you want to learn how to experience the best, most fulfilling year of your marriage, we invite you to order Matthew's new book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. You can get it at Amazon.com or visit Matthew's website, www.matthewphoffman.com. Again, that's Amazon.com or www.matthewphoffman.com. And now, back to the show.
Jerremy Newsome is a mission-driven entrepreneur. His aim is to provide education that frees the mind and improves people's lives. He assists his customers in making the right adjustments to their mindset, heartset, and financial situation, enabling them to attain everything they desire. Since 2010, Jerremy has been dedicated to assisting individuals in navigating their emotional journey through finances, professions, and interpersonal connections, leading to profound transformation in their lives. Svetlana is a divine light energy healer. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, having earned a doctorate in Metaphysical and Spiritual Studies. She is a certified Reiki Master, qualified as a life and relationship coach from Robbins-Madanes Training, and a Kundalini Yoga Teacher. She has dedicated her life to helping others heal and transcend. She does this through teaching her courses around the world. Svetlana is also a devoted wife and mother, raising two beautiful children with her husband, Jerremy. Join us as we learn how this dynamic couple has woven their unique talents and interests together to form a solid relationship of healing, growth, and unconditional acceptance. Welcome back to the Kickass Couples Podcast. We are together doing a recap episode on Jerremy and Svetlana Newsome, a cool couple with a diverse background. And man, they got so many things right, Kim. It's going to be hard not to make this be a long recap, but we're gonna leave some gold on the table, so to speak. So you're gonna have to go back and find it yourselves.
I think the gold came right out of the gate with what Matthew makes them kick ass.
Yeah. What did you think about that?
I thought her response was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm gonna read this.
I think it's worth just to read it.
This was verbatim. Her, we get a lot of fantastic responses, but I'm gonna go ahead and read this to you. These were her words exactly. When I asked the question at the beginning of the interview, what makes you kick ass? She said, our commitment to each other, our big, deep, unconditional love for each other, and most importantly, trust. Trust that we have for our family, for each other, for their souls, that we are for our independent evolution in the world. And the trust of coming together is what makes us so kick ass and so unique.
Yeah, what a special statement
Love
about
that.
Where they are in their relationship with each other and how deeply they value their family.
She's in touch with what's important and it motivates her, and she didn't really have to think about it much. And I think Jerremy has some good stuff to talk about too there, Kim.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite parts of the entire episode is that they truly dreamed each other up. They each wrote down what their perfect person looked like. And they both really thought about and manifested what they wanted that person to be,
right,
and be like. And Go ahead.
Yeah, before they met each other. So
Yeah.
before they met each other, they each sat down and said, what is that ideal person look like for me? What qualities they need to have?
Yeah.
What do I want them to be? And they each did it.
Yeah. He wrote his down as a letter, and he even put a reminder in his phone it would come up on Valentine's Day to remind him, if he wasn't in a relationship, that this is what he wanted to find in a relationship, to have in a relationship. And so I really appreciated that they both had some very thoughtful conversations with themselves about what a committed relationship would look like.
Yeah, and I think they didn't necessarily see it growing up. I mean, I think when we went back and talked about Grandpa in Your Bones a little bit, Jerremy shared, he said, I knew I had a lot of healing to do in the love department. He said, and that I think that revelation came to actually, they met at a Tony Robbins convention, UPW, Unleash the Power Within. And he said, in some of the processes that he went through, he realized that he had a lot of dark caverns that he needed to illuminate and fill with love. And he said, wow, I've got to go on a journey and learn how to do this because I feel like I'm missing or I'm lacking in that sense.
Yeah. And I feel like she had a very similar past in that when we talked about love being modeled for her when she was a child, she said, I didn't see it growing up. I didn't experience it in my family. I didn't see it exist in my friends' families. I didn't see it in social structures. And so she didn't really have that love and that relationship modeled, or she didn't really have love modeled very well within her own family. And so what I loved is that she had a hope and a deep belief in her soul that it was possible, and that she could believe and have that for herself one day.
And I think, Kim, I want to jump in a little bit because the idea, we say this in the introduction for our podcast, is that everybody is deserving and capable. And that's true. No matter how damaged you think you are,
So
or
true.
a past relationship or circumstances or something you did or something that was done to you, you might feel you're less than, you're not capable. And that's not true. And she did a beautiful job of kind of debunking that and coming to her own realization that I am capable and deserving, and marched forward with her actions impelled by that capable belief.
And when she did that, a coach arrived in her life unexpectedly, and she said she was my queen. And she, I'd never had experience with another woman of this magnitude before. And so when she came into her life, that love and that care and that structure and that energy began to take place.
Yeah.
And that was life-changing for her.
It was modeling. So she didn't know, she'd not had a great model of what true womanhood or queenhood was. And it's so nice that, what a beautiful provision for her to have that. And now she uses that in her relationship with Jerremy.
Let's talk a little bit about commitment and their commitment to each other.
Yeah, I think that Jerremy came right out and said, that he wanted to make sure that she was aware that of what commitment looked like to him and how he was committed to her. And he said, I've been in a lot of relationships and they've all failed. And he goes, I know I was the cause of that failure. And so he wanted to
owning up.
He was owning up and letting her know and feel that, hey, you're my everything. I'm committed to you. And I think that he was great at making sure, not just saying the words, but demonstrating in his actions that she is the person that he cares the most about in this world. And that leads right back, Kim, to prioritization. So
it does.
He wanted to make sure in no uncertain terms that she knew that he prioritized her above anyone else, i.e. the number one human relationship is between him and her.
And he started putting that prioritization into practice. And what a great way to make your spouse feel seen, heard, loved, valued. And I think one of the best expressions is almost daily, he says, he asks Svetlana, will you marry me? And that is really just him checking in to make sure that he's meeting all those needs, and that she on any given day is going to say yes. And if she doesn't, if she pauses or hesitates, then he knows, we maybe need to have a conversation. We maybe need to have some really serious communication here.
Yeah, might need to talk about something because we're missing on it. And, I think that kind of led into Kim is he said, I am an open book, full disclosure. He said, I have nothing that's worth hiding at all. Everything is open. He said, she has the keys to my physical safe or my internal or emotional safe. She can open any parts of me and look at it with a flashlight or anything else she needs at any point in time. I am not hiding, keeping, refusing to share anything about me. And, and that even led into, she needs to look at my phone. She wants to look at my computer. She has, my bank account. There is nothing that is off limits. And he is fully open and disclosed everything to her. And I think that's what a great way. I think a lot of women deal with the trust and security issue about, what's he doing? What's he done before? Or is he going to do that again? Or is he doing something I'm not comfortable with him doing? And I think Jerremy took some beautiful steps to make sure that he was sharing openly, completely, and that she could have access to anything she needed to have that security in the relationship.
You do that for me. And I know that, at any given time, all of your stuff is available. Not that I feel the need to go and look, but I know that you have made me feel comfortable that if I ever questioned anything, you'd be willing to lay it out there for me. And there is so much security and safety in that.
Are you tired of feeling like you're living with a roommate instead of a lover? Do you miss the days when you were completely into each other, intellectually, emotionally, and physically? The truth is, many couples are struggling behind closed doors. Putting on a brave face for the rest of the world is exhausting. If you want to get back your joy, return to thriving, and take pleasure in your marriage, then Kickass Couples Coaching and Matthew P. Hoffman are here to help. Join us alone or with your partner and start taking steps towards overcoming the pain-filled obstacles and improving your relationship right now. For a limited time, we're offering a free relationship assessment call. Go to MatthewPHoffman.com/coaching to book your free call now so you can start making real changes in your most important relationship today.
I love what she said about commitment, and that was that it's her devotion. It's her devotion to him and to their family. And she said, one of the most beautiful things that she described is that they were on a beach together, and she was just sort of looking at him and admiring him and feeling so much love in her heart for him. And she asked God, she said, how am I supposed to love him? How should I be loving him? How do I show you my love and my gratitude for him? And basically she heard him say to her, love him as you love me. And so every day she really looks at him with that same love and commitment and adoration as she would her God, which is a really sweet way of committing yourself to your partner.
Yeah, giving up of self in order to love someone, without reservation, completely. And I love the idea too, Kim. It wasn't lost on me that she prayed about, asked for guidance on,
how do I love him?
How do I love him best? And that's a great thing to pray about, because you're saying, I'm not going to pick and choose, but you're going to be led. And that's also a great question to ask your partner. What do you need from me to know that I love you most? Mm-hmm. Or another way of saying it is, what do you need from me to feel best or most loved? And there's nothing wrong with asking that question of your partner, but I love the divine guidance and praying for it, because it really takes self out of it. It's not about what you want, but it's about maybe what they need or how you can show up most for them.
I'd love to talk a little bit about their communication style, because I think it's really special. Mm-hmm. And hers is a little more unique in that she really looks to herself. So she's communicating within herself. and really just sort of asking herself questions before she actually moves on to talk to Jerremy. So she's getting that clarity in place, and then she will have conversations with Jerremy. And they're always talking to each other. She said, we're always with each other. We're always talking to each other. But I think when it comes to real, true communication, that she's really looking within first.
Yeah. And I think she said, if we want to have quality communication, it's when our souls come together. And so the idea, I love the idea, Kim, and I subscribe to it and agree to it. And it's part of my practice is I got to be good with myself. I got to understand, how am I feeling about this? Where am I coming from? Am I centered? Am I coming from a good place? Because
and how am I feeling today? I mean, you almost have to start out on a regular basis saying, how am I feeling right now? How am I feeling in this moment? And being able to understand yourself before you can have those really great communications with your spouse.
Because there may be something you need to change in your own perspective to fully show up for your partner. So if you are angry or upset or frustrated or struggling, doesn't mean you don't need to have those feelings or emotions, but if you can put them into perspective and make sure that you're not letting something limit your ability to show up best for your partner, not just jump into communication, especially something that might be deep or meaningful without being prepared yourself. And I think when Jerremy was responding to communication, he said, I'm a guy. And I got to say,
weakness.
He goes, it's a weakness, not for all men, but for a lot of guys. And that is one that he knows he has. So one of the rules that they have in place, he goes, I am not allowed to say fine in my response to my wife. I'm not allowed to answer, not to answer that question. He goes, a great example would be if she asked a question, I have generally 3 answers that I can say. One of them, I know exactly what, and here it is. The other one is, I'm not sure. Let me think about it and I can get back to you, right? And if it's a feeling, he goes, one of the questions that scares me the most is when she says, how are you feeling? Because he's got to get real and he's got to be willing to go deep. And even if he doesn't know, he knows that she'll accept, let me get back to you when I can formulate the right response and give you what you need.
Well, I love that they put those rules into place. If you're in a relationship and you and this is something that really is a touchy point with you, then I think it's really good that you have those conversations and that you set those parameters within which you want to communicate. And that is, I don't want to hear the word fine, right? Or I don't want you to just sort of brush me off, or I shouldn't be brushing you off. I need to speak and I need to use words and say how I'm feeling, and I want to revisit this at a later date.
Communicating feelings and emotions, there's words, 4 little
tricky.
words. I hate. Busy is one of them, busy. Fine is another one because it doesn't tell you anything substantive or factual or give you information to go on and make better decisions or to. And so I think that, when we're talking about communication, it's got to be emotion. It's got to be meaningful. It's got to be feelings. It has to be where you stand on an issue and why, not just a short letter answer, not yup, fine, busy. It's, just getting through the communication so you're on the other side is not effective communication. And I think, listening is just a huge part of that. It seems like the two of them do a great job of really trying to get in touch on a deeper level in listening to understand so that they can be connected in that communication.
Yeah, for sure. I think when we moved on to conflict, that a lot of that communication style came into how they handle conflict as well. And that is, especially for Svetlana, starting within first, really seeing where she is and then moving on to the more difficult conversations.
Are you struggling to maintain the emotional and physical intimacy you once shared? Do you feel like you're spending more energy finding fault and tearing your partner down instead of magnifying their good and building them up? Don't worry, you're not alone. Many couples are struggling behind a forced smile and an inauthentic happiness. You feel drained, unheard, and more often than not, unappreciated. The good news is it's not too late to rekindle the flame and strengthen your bond. I'm offering a free relationship assessment call to help you take the first step towards revitalizing your relationship and reaching your own relationship nirvana. Whether you come alone or with your partner, I'm here to help you create the space for a more fulfilling and satisfying relationship. Don't wait any longer. Make the changes you need to thrive. Book your free call today at matthewphoffman.com/coaching. And let's get started on your journey to a kick-ass relationship.
Funny story they had about that.
Yeah, I think, well, and you know, one of Jeremy's points was a great point, and that was, she doesn't criticize me. If there's an issue or there's conflict, she is not out to critique me. And that great story that they had was a cake example. He was going to pick up a birthday cake for their very young son. And
First birthday, I think.
Yeah. And so he was, he said, how can I help? What can I do? And so she sent him to the baker and said, you're going to pick this cake up. So he gets there, and I guess the baker was in a different room, and there was a counter with a bunch of cakes on them. And he walks in, he said, I'm here to pick up a cake. And baker hands him a carrot cake, and he leaves. And he kind of at the moment thought, well, that's a little odd, but I love carrot cake. And so that's probably why she got it, because, we all like carrot cake. And so he takes it back, and it was not the right cake.
Not their cake. Not what she ordered, not what she's expecting.
The wrong cake, not at all. But you know what? She just laughed about the fact that he brought home the wrong cake. At least they had cake. And, she didn't berate him. She didn't say, how could you? What did you do? And, I look back and I think back about my own self at our child, and perhaps you doing that. And I think I would have been derailed by it. And it's so sad that would have been my first response is, oh my gosh, how could you bring home the wrong cake? Right. And I love this beautiful example of, we just kind of go with it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. It's not going to do me any good or him any good to berate him, to make him feel horrible about it. And so I love her perspective.
Yeah, and there's a situation when it's conflict or miscommunication, it's not about proving your partner wrong. Like, we all have an innate desire to be right because we want to feel justified, but it doesn't do you any good. It's not a win when you show I was right and you're wrong. It does no good to the relationship. It's a false sense of ego and an unhealthy kind of ego, but you really want to work to getting to win-win. And in that situation, Svetlana, she didn't make a huge issue out of it. She kind of laughed and go, well, it's not what I ordered, but they worked through it, because what good would have done to say, that's not what I ordered. You got it wrong. You made a mistake, right? It beat him around the head and shoulders and make him feel less than or stupid for making a mistake. It wouldn't have fixed the situation, and it would have maybe helped her feel justified, but she knew that wasn't what it was about. And she extended him grace and made sure the relationship stayed strong. And I think in so many conflicts, Kim, we have a choice. We're not in control of circumstances. We can't control what happens to us, but we always can live in the pause and choose how we're going to respond to it. And it should be out of love and care, a win for the us, and
Respect.
to elevate our partners up and not break them down.
Listen, we all are going to make mistakes. That cake story is just one of many over the course of a long relationship. And so you are so right. In that moment, if you can pause and choose to make the right response, to give the right response out of love and respect for your partner, it will go a long way.
Huge, no doubt.
So I want to talk about the pillars outside of our 3 C's that really resonated most with them. And I love this one. It's intimacy. And I think they do a really good job of working on intimacy, and that it's really important to them. They play with each other all day long in their thought, in their conversation, and how they interact with each other. And that is one way that they stay emotionally connected and intimate with each other.
I love that. I think more couples need to do that, Kim. It's the intimacy
Flirting.
Intimacy game should always be on.
Yeah.
It's not something you pull off the shelf for 30 minutes in the evening in the
That's
bedroom.
a great point.
But it's got to happen all day long. It's a lifelong 24 hours. It doesn't mean you've got to be taxing, but it's the chats. It's the text, it's the memes, it's the touch, it's the flirting, it's
the wink from across the room.
It's making a suggestion, or if you're, seeing your wife or your husband and making a comment about how they look or thoughts that you might be having right then and there, and really nurturing all the things that remind each other and get you excited about being together in a close way.
Yeah. And don't get attached to those intimacy killers, right?
Yeah.
Those intimacy killers can really come and drive a wedge in between your relationship.
Yeah. I think it's going to create damage and resentment, and what we just talked about, being right. If you're insisting that I've got to be right in this and I got to tell them how they screwed up, that's an intimacy killer. It's going to drive a wedge. It's going to create resentment. And when that's not the fertile field for love, adoration, and for closeness, to all really work to do that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of outside ugliness that can be brought into the relationship. And so I think it's really important that we set parameters and boundaries within our relationship to protect our relationship when it comes to intimacy. One thing that Svetlana did is she went to or took part in a 12-week program on sex, sacred sexuality, and learning more about womanhood. And she said, I have that energy within me now, and I have it to share with Jerremy. And she's really excited about using that knowledge within her relationship with her partner.
Yeah. And I think that one thing that Jerremy did, and I think, I've made this commitment to Kim as well in our relationship, is that he said early on, before we had a relationship, he said, I cut porn 100% out of my life, totally and completely, because he recognized it was one of his struggles. So he wanted to be open that he struggled with it. But he said, you are more important to me than that. And he was a single male for majority of his life, and it was a challenge and something he was drawn to. And he said, I didn't want to be drawn to something else for satisfaction and enjoyment that wasn't my wife. And I think that most men get that wrong, or they think it's okay because they don't always want to have that connection with their wife. But, I have a chapter in my book called No Substitutes, and pornography is just a substitute. It doesn't require anything. It's not personal. It's impersonal. And you also get wrapped up into so many other issues, Kim, that you and I know well of, about most people that are engaged in pornography are not there because they want to be. Sometimes there's human trafficking, or there's drug use or addiction. And it's just not a real portrayal of what life is like. It's not what we should be aspiring to. And it's not something
you
that
ever
we
want to
need.
support.
No, you don't.
Well. Yes.
And so I love that. He said he discussed it early on, like date 5, I think he said. And he said, what are your thoughts on this? What are your opinions on this? Because he wanted to make her an advocate and a supporter of his efforts and make her totally aware. So I really appreciate that. And he said, when I have cravings and desires, I express those to her. Instead of holding them to himself, he shares them with her, so she has an opportunity to fulfill them. I think, guys, that's all what it needs to be about, giving those opportunities to your partner to step in and become close.
Yeah, this is a fantastic interview. I think there's a lot of great things that our listeners can derive from listening to this. So I hope you'll go back and listen to it in its entirety.
Great couple, a lot of good things to learn, like Kim said. Check it out. And we've shared some of the nuggets with you today, but we hope that you will give us a review and let us know that you found something here, and come back and let us know what you think.
Thanks for listening in, everyone. And remember that happily ever after, it does not just happen, it's on purpose.
That's all we've got for this episode of the Kickass Couples Podcast. If you like the content of this show, you'll love Matthew's newly released book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. To receive a digital mini book of quotes and images from the book, all you have to do is rate this show and leave a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Then email us a screenshot of your review at podcast@kickasscouplespodcast.com, and we'll get it over to you right away. Until next time, remember,
happily ever after doesn't just happen, it's on purpose.